Hey, thanks so much for joining me today. My name is John Wood. I'm the afternoon host of the Light FM. So excited to be able to talk about Operation Christmas Child, a ministry that's near and dear to my heart and for so many who have taken part in this incredible outreach around the world of sharing the love of Jesus Christ. Now, most people think of that as a shoebox, and that is the main vehicle that people know about it, but it does so much more than that. But listen, don't take my word for it. I have a very special guest today that I'm so thankful to have. So would you help me make welcome Vladimir Prokhnevskiy as he joins us from OCC today. Vladimir, it's so good to have you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Man, first of all, you're looking sharp today. You're
Thank you.
making a
Likewise.
difference. And I just can't help but think for our friend who's listening, maybe they've heard about OCC before and they think, oh, yeah, that's a cool idea. But you actually received a shoebox. And I would love if you wouldn't mind just maybe sharing a little bit about your background, where you're from, and what it was like.
Yes, so I come from Kiev, Ukraine. I come from a family of 9 children, and my father was an underground minister in Kiev, Ukraine. He
Okay.
risked his life preaching the gospel in the streets of Kiev at the time when it wasn't popular or allowed. And because my father was a believer living in a communist country, he was hindered from advancing in our society. So my father had to settle for low-paying jobs. And it got to the point to where we had to take turns to go outside to play because we didn't have enough shoes for everybody. We also had to share our toothbrushes, which was a humbling experience. And we didn't have access to a lot of toys, especially new toys.
Mm.
But it didn't stop us from being creative. We would make yo-yos out of Coca-Cola caps, and we would play with our shoes, pretending they were cars. So we used our creativity, imagination. And we grew up in a tiny 3-bedroom apartment with barely any heating and cooling. And my mom, she had to do all the laundry by hand. And because of the amount of laundry my mom had to do, her skin would often crack and bleed. So we
Mm.
grew up, and then mom, she would stay up all night and she would make socks and underwear for us out of old clothes and donated materials. So my mom was also very creative, very resourceful. So we grew up very poor on the inside of the apartment and then heavily persecuted on the outside. That was pretty much the background that we grew up in.
Man, I can't help but think just listening to that. First of all, having 8 siblings, bless you. I can't imagine what that was like. But second of all, it's obvious the heart that your family had for ministry. I mean, that's quite a commitment to know that, as you just put it, to maybe be
Hmm.
struggling as a household, but at the same time to have the persecution on the outside. As you look back on that and reflect on that moment that you received that shoebox from Operation Christmas Child, walk us through what the lead up to that was like, that day you got it, and then kind of explain to us what it meant to you once you did.
Yeah, so this was in the middle of cold Ukrainian winter, and I lived in Kiev, it's a pretty big city, and we had to hop on the bus and then on the tram just to get to this place. And we were lightly dressed because we couldn't afford a lot of warm clothes. And when we pulled up to this event, I was walking in at the same time with a girl that I recognized from my class, but I was very surprised to see this girl there because I knew that this girl was not a believer. And for some reason, I assumed that this event was only for Christians.
Mm.
And to my surprise, this place was filled with all kinds of people from all walks of life. And when we walked into this place, it's like we transitioned from this black and white Ukrainian winter to a colorful room of joy and laughter.
Mhm.
There was so much happy music, beautiful, welcoming smiles. But what was so cool is that they presented the gospel to us in so many different and unique ways through singing, dancing, cartoons, movies, animations, flannel boards. It was so visual. It was so effective. And it was like a big birthday party for everyone. And even if they stopped at that, it would have been enough because it was so special. But that's when they brought out the beautiful and colorful shoe boxes. And when I received my shoe box, it's like everything that I imagined playing with growing up. It's like it manifests in real life. I had my own yo-yo. I didn't have to make yo-yos out of Coca-Cola caps anymore. I had my own toothbrush. I didn't have to share a toothbrush with anybody. And my toothbrush was like a rock star toothbrush. It had so much personality, so much color. It was like no one had anything like it. I also had the Hot Wheel cars, so I didn't have to play with my shoes, pretending they were cars anymore. And everyone always wants to know, Vladimir, what's that one thing that you enjoyed out of your shoebox? And it was dental floss. And the reason why it was so memorable for me is because I liked to thinking it was candy. And I remember thinking, this is some crazy candy you guys have in America. Like it was minty. So I thought, well, it's not terrible. It has a decent texture to it. And my mouth was just so numb from all that mint. And there was a gentleman who was watching me, observing me from across the room. And he came over and he tried to explain to me in his broken Russian what it was really for. And he kind of went like this, which what I got out of it is that it was like a toothbrush substitute, which confused me even more. I mean, I was fine with it being just some kind of diet American candy, but I'm
Right.
looking at him confused. Like, okay, toothbrush is very effective, but this fancy string, how is this supposed to be effective? So it wasn't until many years later when we finally moved to the United States, and I remember being at our first dentist appointment, and the dentist kind of went sideways and started demonstrating what the floss was for. And let's just say I felt pretty silly. So definitely pack some dental floss in your shoe boxes this year, just to confuse a child or two. It's good for them, builds character. Don't put in instructions. Don't cheat. Let him figure it out. I think you'll be good for him. But over the years, I forget a lot of details, just small details about the shoebox. But I never forgot how it made me feel. I felt loved. And I always say that God is love. And when we show love to people, we show God to people. When people experience love, they experience God. And once you experience that God's unconditional love, you will not walk away and change. And in our culture, when somebody gives a gift, they always expect something in return. It's always transactional. But here's a gift that was given to me with no strings attached, unconditionally. And it impacted me for life.
Well, that's powerful in just what you're saying, because I think, even in our culture, we have that tendency of, oh, someone does something nice for me, either I need to one up them and go even beyond what they've done, or still try to find a way of paying them back. And, that's a beautiful picture that you painted of walking into a room full of joy. I can only think if a dentist watches this, they're going to want you to be a campaign manager for dental floss, because honestly, if that's pretty great to see it that way. But maybe for a friend that's watching right now or listening, for them, this idea of plugging in with OCC, it sounds cool, but maybe they're not even familiar enough with the ministry. So can you help paint a picture of just how many countries OCC is serving and what the ministry on the ground really looks like?
So I'm just one of 178 million children to receive the shoebox since 1993. Wow. And these shoeboxes, they went over to over 160 countries and territories. And these shoeboxes, they're not just gifts, because, it's a physical gift, but at the same time, the gospel comes with these boxes. So children get to know about the gospel, and they go through a 12-lesson discipleship program. So it's a tool for the gospel. And it's a physical gift and it's an eternal gift. And on that day when I received my shoebox, these gifts, they're not just an answered prayer to the children, but also to the parents. And it has a huge ripple effect. Because the best way to get to a parent heart is through their children, right? If you want to show love to me, show love to my kids. That's the best way to get to my heart. And that have a huge ripple effect. I call these shoe boxes, they're like little love in a box, like little lights when they go to the most darkest parts of the world. And what happens when light goes into darkness? It spreads like wildfire, and that love is so contagious. And children are, for some of these kids, this is their first and last Christmas gift that they'll ever get. It was certainly my first Christmas, and what a special Christmas gift it was.
Well, obviously 2020 has been a year for the books, no doubt about it, with COVID and all the things that we've seen around not only our nation, but around our world. First of all, is OCC still delivering shoeboxes this year? Is that still on?
Yes, the gospel is not stopping. Now more than ever, children need to hear the gospel of Jesus Christ. And, we're following all the proper guidelines, and you can read more about them at samaritanspurse.org/OCC. It's a great resource for all of those things. And along with, National Collection Week this year is November 16th through the 23rd. And we have over 5,000, nearly 5,000 locations across the country where you can drop off your shoebox. So yeah, definitely go to samaritanspurse.org/OCC for all the information. It's a great online resource.
So what are some different ways that people can get involved? Maybe they're thinking, okay, with COVID in place, I know some people have been a little more leery about maybe physically packing a shoebox and going somewhere. But if I remember correctly, OCC's got a pretty cool virtual experience that people can also partner with as well.
You can go again, samaritanspurse.org/OCC, and you can build a shoebox online. It's really cool. It's very special. And those shoeboxes go to the most, go to the darkest, unreached parts of the world. And it's a great experience. So yeah, if you can't make one in person, I think online is a great alternative. It'll be very special for you and the family.
So, all right, last question, and I'll let you go. For our friend who's maybe sitting on the fence, they've heard your incredible story, and we appreciate you taking time to share it. What would you tell them if they're just kind of sitting there saying, I kind of want to do this, I'm not sure, should I take the plunge? Why would you encourage them to take the next step?
I think love is contagious. When we show love to people, it spreads like wildfire. And I think generosity is what moved my parents' heart. When we first moved to the United States, we had two churches sponsor our move, two different denominations. These people with no strings attached. We had strangers show up from different churches, and they would bring us food, take us shopping. Just unconditional love with no strings attached is contagious, and it changes people's hearts. And the reason why I pack every year with my kids, I have two boys, 7 and a 4-year-old. It's because I want to demonstrate to them what generosity looks like. And the best way to do that is through action. And so I think generosity is like a muscle. We need to exercise it. And I think that's why I do it, so my boys can see what it looks like. Because I come from a culture where people don't volunteer much, people don't give much. And that's what I love about American culture, how generous people are with their time, with their money. And I just want to continue that in this culture. That's why I pack shoe boxes and show kids that, look, kids, this is what generosity looks like. And then it's a great opportunity to teach them what's going on around the world. That with the pandemic, children in third world countries are struggling even more. Some of them are starving, and so it's a great opportunity for them to demonstrate God's unconditional love in a tangible way.
I love it. I love it. What a great ministry. What a great story. Vladimir, thank you for what you're doing to help serve with OCC. And of course, for a friend watching, again, if you want to plug in, great resource, samaritanspurse.org/OCC. And Vladimir, I'm going to let you in on something. Even at the Light FM, we are trying to collect 500 virtual shoeboxes during National Collection Week. So we're right there with you. We're in the game. We believe in the ministry, and we're excited to see what God's going to do. So thanks for your time today.
Thank you. Appreciate it.